Brian Grimes, your real estate mentor, back with another action-packed live session. We're going to talk about the perfect deal. How do you find the perfect deal? I've been getting this question a ton from you guys, over the last several weeks, really several months. This is a question I get all the time. If you're new to the channel, like, comment, and subscribe. Leave a comment that says, I subscribe. For everyone who leaves that comment, I'm going to send you instant access to one of my free real estate trainings. It'll show you how to acquire properties for pennies on a dollar all across the country. You don't want to miss out on that free offer. Stick around to the end because you will learn something along the way. You'll learn something from other people's questions. So make sure you drop your questions, comments in the chat section. I'm going to answer those as we go through this training so that we can, get those questions that are on the top of your mind as well in this mastermind call. So let's get this thing kicked off. How do you find the perfect deal? You guys come to me with this question kind of all the time. Brian, I just want the perfect deal. And most of us, when we're thinking about the perfect deal, we're thinking about like, what are the metrics? Like, there's just this clear prototype for the perfect deal for everyone. And Brian knows that he's going to show me how to just go out and secure the perfect deal. And I will show you how to do it. But what you have to understand is the perfect deal is the perfect deal for you. And that is based upon where you're at, what your criteria is, what the different metrics that you're looking for are. Are you a flipper? Are you a holder? And I'm going to walk you through the mindset that you have to be in order to find the perfect deals. This is not necessarily about just going to auctions or going to foreclosure sales or going to wholesalers or going directly to sellers and putting up bandit signs and Facebook ads and all of these different things that we talk about and that we teach you about in our 100 Keys VIP Masterclass, where I work with you guys one-on-one and mentor you into this game. So it's not just about the X's and O's. You actually have to start way before that. And the reason you have to is, even if I teach you all of the X's and O's of real estate, if you don't have that perfect criteria for you of what you need to do as an individual investor, you are still going to not have a lot of success. I mean, for those of you who haven't heard this before, my mentor taught me, Brian, if you want to be successful in real estate, you have to buy where you know, rent to who you know, and you'll always be successful. And he didn't mean that literally, right? Like buy in the backyard of where you grew up, even though that's kind of what I did, right? Because I was so young and I was just like writing it down with a pen and paper. Like I'm doing literally what this guy's telling me. But what he was trying to tell me was you have to have a criteria that matches you as an individual. You have to buy in neighborhoods that are like the ones you grew up in or something that is familiar to you, and rent to people that are from a walk of life or that are doing something that's familiar to you, and then you'll be successful. So guys, make sure you drop your questions in the chat section as we're going through this. I want to answer your questions when they're top of mind, and other people learn from your questions because I go on these rants and it'll help us all out. So definitely keep dropping your questions, but I want to walk us through that perfect criteria. Once you master your criteria and answer these questions, you may need to watch this live a few times so that you can digest this. But once you walk yourself through this process and you identify the perfect deal for you, now you can go out and attack it. You can't hit what you can't see. So if you don't have your criteria together and you don't know the perfect deal for you, you can't take action yet. And you guys know I'm all about taking action, all about it. That's the number one way to get out of the 9-to-5 and get to your dream life in real estate is by taking action on mentorship, taking action on going all in on your first deal, taking action on a rehab project, reaching out to a lender, making calls. But this is what we need to do. So first, and these are the steps, start off with your criteria. What's your criteria and how does that fit you? So what strategy fits you the best? First, you want to start with strategy. Now, if you're looking to break out of the 9-to-5 as soon as possible, like I got to get out ASAP. I hate this job. I hate my boss. I'm miserable. Buying and flipping could be a good strategy. The reason why I say that is, one, you do need a lot of knowledge. I would say you need more mentorship to buy and flip than you do to just go out and do a buy and hold deal. But the reason why it's the best strategy is because it's the fastest straight line to getting you out of the 9-to-5. Because most of us, the average person who's coming to me is making, we'll call it the low 6 figures or less, right? So if you're making less than 6 figures, you can flip a deal or two in a year and make over 6 figures. The average flip target on a deal in America is around like 90,000 or more in most markets. So if you just execute it on 2 flips, you could double, triple, quadruple, some of your incomes. For many of the people who are coming to me, calling me, trying to tap into these mastermind programs and the VIP one-on-one mentorship programs. So that is the fastest line. And you need to know that. So if you're going in and you're like, I want to get out of the 9 to 5 as fast as possible, but you don't know what strategy fits you and can get you there the quickest, now you're hustling backwards. You're not making the best out of your opportunity. So that strategy can fit you the best. If your strategy is, I want passive income, I enjoy what I do. I don't mind working. I don't want to work forever though. I do want to have an early retirement and get out of this thing. We can put you on a 2 to 3 year fast track where we say, look, we're going to pick up as many rental properties in year 1, learn the ropes, and then we're going to get you accelerated. In year 2, we're going to grab 10 properties. In year 3, we're going to grab 30. And you're going to be out in the 9 to 5 still, but with that passive income where the money's just kind of coming in, rain, sleet, hail, or snow. That's the 24/7 cash flow where you're getting paid even while you're asleep. So you have to first start off with what strategy fits you. Now you take it a level deeper and you say, well, who am I in terms of my criteria? Who am I as an individual? And remember, I'm talking to you guys. I probably talk to several hundred people per month who are interested in the mentorship program. When I'm talking to you guys, here's kind of what I'm hearing. Some of you have that military background. You're either veterans or you're looking to get out of the military. You're currently making that transition. And real estate is definitely a good way to transition out of the military. A lot of you guys are entrepreneurial by spirit. You follow direction very well. You're very militant in your approach, even to investing. So we look at that and we say, okay, I'm a veteran. Who can you rent to? How does this match your criteria? If you're a veteran or you're a military professional, well, you can now start doing things like this, targeting properties around military bases, because if you guys don't know this, but many of you do, that a lot of the senior ranking officials and even the people who are in transition, they're coming for midterm stays and or 2 or 3 year stints around these military bases. So they have to, if they're a senior ranking official, they're going to buy a property near the base that's really close. They're going to pay a good value for that. They have vouchers that allow them to get 100% financing on these deals. And those properties tend to always go up in value because of this, because you have this guaranteed demand from military professionals. So now you can target flip deals that are right around the base, right? If you're a buy and flipper, or if you're a holder, you can build midterm rentals for some of the junior ranking professionals who are going to stay at these bases or be working at these bases, but want to live off base. And you can start to create this product because you have the military background. You know how the military people think. You can cater a product to them. You know exactly how close they want to live the base. You know what they're dealing with. You can market to them directly. This is how you get into your criteria. So wouldn't that be the perfect deal for you? The perfect deal is not about the deal. It's about you. And this is the mindset shift that you guys have to get into so that you can fall in love with the process, so that you can fall in love with this thing. Because real estate, there's 101 ways to make money in it, but there's only one perfect way for you. So if you're a military professional, this should be some component of your strategy. It's so much easier, right, to narrow it down and say, okay, I'm going to tap into these types of properties here, and this is how I'm going to execute. Now you can focus on those zip codes around the military base, identify the perfect property around those military base, and then have the perfect strategy that fits you. Okay? If we're a social worker, which a lot of you are social workers. My mother's a social worker. My grandmother, if you guys don't know this, some of you, I've told you this when you've asked me my why. She's been a foster parent for like 50 years, right? So there's always that part of me that is like very much into helping people, right? Because it was just ingrained. If you're a social worker, you may have more of an affinity for C-class investing, for creating affordable housing, workforce housing, doing Section 8 and some of these different things, or going into underdeveloped communities and creating properties that you can flip to middle income families or lower middle income families, and connecting with different programs out there. There's different social programs that will help people who are of a lower income to qualify for some of the government-based programs to buy these houses with zero, down payment or 1% down pays or whatever it is, down payment assistance programs. So you can partner with some of these groups and get a pipeline of people to either buy your houses if you're flipping or to rent to. If you're going to do Section 8, even on the veteran side, you can rent to veterans because veterans get vouchers for housing that'll pay 100% of the housing stipend. So this is another thing. Medical professionals, you should be looking around hospitals, right? Renting to residents, creating different rental products for residents, creating products for traveling nurses, some of these midterm stays. And this can help you to narrow down your criteria into a pool of properties that will allow you to execute. If you're a driver, if you're a trucker, a lot of truck drivers will call me. You're ripping and running up and down the road. You're traveling all the time and you're seeing a lot of real estate. So as you're doing these routes, if you're doing this the right way, you're becoming comfortable with other places. You're becoming comfortable with other walks of life. And as you're doing that, you can see how people are living in other states. You can say, oh, well, I'm in this town. This town is really booming. Things are really developing. And you can start with out of town investing a lot easier than the average person because you're used to being on the road and traveling a lot. So out of town investing is not as much of a stretch for you. So these are some of the things that you want to be thinking about. There's much more to think about. And I break down kind of my market research and how to research areas and these different opportunities in 100 Keys Masterclass, my VIP mentorship program. But this is part of, if you're feeling stuck, it's because you're not doing some of this mental work. And we're going to keep walking through this process. Guys, if you're getting value out of this, like, comment, subscribe. Leave a comment that says I subscribe. Share this with somebody else who you think can get value. Do not be stingy. I'm not stingy with the value, right? So don't be stingy with the value. Share this with somebody who you think can get value from tapping into real estate, who can help their friends and family, and who can break free from the 9 to 5. I'm going to jump into a couple of questions, and then we're going to get into the next level of this, which is the macro, how to think macro, and then we'll get into micro, because you have to go through all of these levels to get where you want to be. Antonio asked me, what's the average net for a boots on the ground project? So if you're doing a boots on the ground flip, the boots on the ground program, for those of you who don't know, is my program where we build houses for people in Philly. Some people are looking to flip. Many are looking to just buy and hold and do like rental properties. Some are looking to buy and flip. We target typically a $50,000 target for the flips. So based on the analysis that we're doing, which would be the acquisition price, the renovation budget, the loan costs from the lender who's financing this, and then the sales price based on the comps, we're targeting a minimum, ideally, of around $50,000. And this was actually something I learned when I was a financial planner. I went to this guy. He was out in a nice part of Philly, right in like a suburb of Philly, and he was a contractor. And I was probably like 24, 25. This was over a decade ago. I was just thinking about getting into this stuff. And I'm asking him, how much money do I need to do a deal? Because he's telling me, oh, Brian, I used to flip. I used to do this and that. How much money do I need to do a deal? And how much should I be making per flip? And he said, look, you need about 50 grand to do a flip. And once you get that 50 grand, he said the average profit should be around 50,000. He was telling me this back then. Like, if you can take your 50 and make 50, then you turn 50 to 100, and then 150 to, and then you're up to like a quarter, and then you just keep leveraging and you can keep going up. But the average profit target is around 50,000. So the boots on the ground program, you could tap in. We are at limited capacity, so this certainly is not saying everybody try to tap into that. But if you are tapped in, that is what we're targeting. And we build the house, we find them for you, we put together rehab budgets, we execute on the renovation for you on a bid out, so on like a fixed project based contract, and then it's yours to sell. You own it 100%. So there's no funny business. There are these programs out there that'll scam you, where they'll ask you for money, like, oh, wire me 100K and then we'll go out and do XYZ. This is like no nonsense. So you own the property, we'll help you to analyze things, get them under contract, connect with the lenders, but you own everything 100%, which is the right way to do it. You guys know how I feel about ownership in real estate and kind of all of those things. So if anybody's interested in the boots on the ground program, just reach out to me, text me, DM me, however you got here. what would be the criteria for somebody with a construction background? Definitely full gut renovation. If you have a construction background, and I feel like I don't talk to enough contractors. I feel like 1 out of every 20 people I talk to, and like I said, I talk to hundreds of people every month. 1 out of 20 is a contractor. And you guys are oddly the closest to the goal line because you know the construction. Your only issue is the money people. Like, how do I put the lenders together and the financing together? And I think there's some fear factor there. And there's a different level of skill set. Like, as a contractor, you're naturally more of an artist than a numbers person. It's just a wiring. As a numbers person, you're more of a numbers person than an artist, than a contract. Like, you can't draw. Like, the way your mind is wired is more mathematics based than art based. So there is like some type of a difficulty there in connecting those dots. But tapping into mentorship and getting those dots connected as a contractor, it would be the smartest use of your time, because as a contractor, you're almost getting, unless you're like the top guy, like the foreman, and you can really touch like the big money in construction, you almost will never be paid what your full skill set is worth as a contractor until you tap into the full system and just become a developer. Because as a contractor, you can make, let's say like a really good contractor, if you're a really good plumber, if you're a really good electrician, you can make 6 figures. You can make really good money, and better money than most of us like ever make. But you could be making 7 figures as a developer with the same skill set, because the construction skill set is a multi-million-dollar skill set. So you just need to learn how to unlock it. But that's what I would say is, for somebody with a construction background, full gut renovation, that is where you want to go. Jose, how did the spike in interest rates impact your strategy over the last year? It just made things tighter. So it doesn't really impact the strategy overall. It just makes it more difficult. So you have to become a better investor. You can't get away with what you could get away with. It's almost like if you went from playing high school sports to college sports, or college sports to professional sports. You have to step your game up. So what the tightening of interest rates has done is it has made it harder for amateurs to deal in this professional real estate investing game, which means you need mentorship more now than you did before. Because before, you could just go out there, interest rates were loose, people were just throwing money, banks were throwing money around, everything was great. Now it's tighter. So you have to have a better strategy. You have to really be dialed into your criteria. You have to be tuned in, tapped in. You have to have your research down. You need to have your numbers down. You need to know how to analyze deals. You need to know how to build rehab budgets. You need to know how to execute on those, because there's no room for error anymore. It shouldn't scare anybody off. What it should do is push you towards more knowledge. Like, you need more knowledge. You really should get your hand held. You should have gotten your hand held even in a lower interest rate environment, because it's safer. You lose less money. But now it's almost financial suicide to try to run out into the school of hard knocks, because it's like the school of hard knocks got tougher. It's way harder right now to execute. So that's what I would say is, it's just compressed things. It's gotten rid of the fluff. So now this is the Shark Tank for the professionals, not for the amateurs anymore. Guys, like, comment, subscribe. Leave a comment that says I subscribe, so I can send you instant access to that free real estate training. Share this with somebody who's getting value, or who could get value out of this. And keep the questions coming. We're going to get on to the macro, and then I'll turn back to questions. So keep your questions coming, even as we're going through this, if you have any questions about it. So macro, you have to look at the big picture. So now that you have your criteria, like, I'm renting to veterans, I'm flipping, I'm holding, I'm doing midterm rentals, I'm renting to traveling nurses. You kind of have your criteria. Now you have to look at the macro of the environment. Interest rates could be part of the macro. What are rates doing? Is that going to guide you towards buying and holding, or buying and flipping? You have to look at things like rental demand. What's the rental demand in this area that you're looking to invest in this city, in this state, in the municipality? Is this a sister city or a cousin city? Like, where am I investing? If I'm investing in Philly, I'm investing in Philly because it's a sister city to New York. And I know New York's so expensive, and it's getting so strict on regulatory issues that people just want to get out, and they want to go to the next closest city. Most New Yorkers don't like Boston. They don't like New England. because of like the Sox and the Yankees and a lot of history. So they go down to Philly. They're like, I could deal with the Eagles and the Phillies. So they go to Philly, and they know it's cheaper there. It's better on taxes. There's a lot that's better there. And it's a sister city. So it has this built-in demand of people that are coming from the more expensive city to the cheaper city. Having that built-in demand helps you a lot, especially as a buy and holder or a flipper, because you know there are going to be people who are coming from a more expensive city who are going to look at this real estate and say, oh, I can get all of this for 250K. I couldn't even get a Roach box for 250K in New York. So you have that. Then you have cousin cities that are like, it could be like Pittsburgh. It could be parts of Delaware, the northern tip of Delaware, where you're looking at those as like cousin cities. They're not even sister cities. They're smaller municipalities, but they still offer a lot of value because a lot of developers aren't there yet. So there's less competition. And that could be an easier place for you to enter the game, nest, get your first 5 to 10 deals. So you look at things like that. You have to look at amenities. Are there jobs here? Is there development here? Are there tax benefits here? What are the amenities? What's the value of living here? How close can you buy properties to where most people work, to the center city area? So you start looking at the amenities. This is also part of finding that perfect deal, because your perfect deal is going to have all of these things: strong rental demand. It's in a good city that has some type of built-in inflow of people. It's got good amenities. And then another important, it's not the last, but it's another important thing is, do the lenders believe in the mission? So you could go find a deal and say, hey, my perfect criteria leads me to Detroit, but then the lenders don't believe in it. They're like, no, we don't like Detroit. We're not really investing there. So if you don't have the lenders there, you can't scale it, can you? No matter how much money you have, you can't scale without lending, because the lenders have more. You have to be able to tap into big money to scale up and go out and do like 50, 100 deals, or to get what you want to get, or to climb to the level you want to climb to. Because a lot of us, our goal is to get 5, 10 deals and then retire. And then by the time you get 5, you climb a little higher, you can see a little further. And then you start looking, wow, maybe that was a small goal. Maybe I should be going after 50. But you're going to need the lenders to juice up that activity once you get to that level. So you always have to be asking yourself, do the lenders believe in this? Are they going to finance this? The easiest way to find out is to go to them with a deal, or ask somebody like me who's talked to these lenders, who's dealt with these national lenders and explored these different opportunities, and knows that, you know, Detroit, they're not really bought in. Philly, they're bought in. They love it. Baltimore, they're on the fence. They're kind of schemish, but they're going to turn over there. And there's other issues that we'll get into there. It looks like we have a couple questions. So let me tap into some of these questions. Guys, keep the questions coming, because a lot of people learn from your questions and they have the same questions. Delinquent auction coming up in September. I have 15K saved. Should I try my luck? I mean, and I'm assuming because of the delinquent, you're talking about taxes. It depends. It depends. I mean, tax delinquent auctions, you have to really do your research. More than anything, at the auction, you have to do your research, because the auction don't care, man. They will let you bid and win. I've actually seen people come into the auction and they start bidding up. They get really excited about a property, but it's because they didn't do the research. So they're bidding it up, 50K, 60K. And the other people sit down. I had one guy bid against himself. Nobody was standing up. He went 60K. The auctioneer is like, okay, do I have 65? He's like, 65. Everybody else had already sat down. He just bid it against himself. And they were like, so, took his 65. But all of the other professionals, we had done our research and we knew it was a bad deal. So we almost all felt bad. People were looking at each other, like you could hear the room whispering, like, what is this guy? This guy, oh man, he's going to be hurt. And the guy got his property. He walked out. And as he was walking out, he started to notice kind of the room. And he was like, wait, did I make a mistake? So you have to do a lot of research. You have to really, that's one thing I put on mentorship as well. You really want to work with somebody who's rocked the auction before, who's been there, who's dealt with some of the issues of the auction, who knows how it works, who understands some of the redemption rights that people have when they lose their property at the auction. There's just so much research that goes into that you could go in and blow your whole 15K. I would say, and I'm not sure about a name, like if you're in the mentorship program or not, but If you're not in the mentorship program, you need to get in a mentorship first. The first thing to invest in is you, not a property. That the property is the second thing to invest in. The first thing to invest in is you and your knowledge. Because if you go and invest in the property first, you could make a big mistake that could wipe you out of the game, and you still won't have learned anything. Making a mistake does not necessarily equal learning, and not at the level of learning that you will get from a mentorship program. So you might learn one mistake. Like, let's say you make a mistake, just hypothetically, guys. You go out, you do a deal on your own, School of Hard Knocks, you make a mistake, and it costs you 10 grand. Well, you just learned that one mistake. That might not even be all of the mistakes. It's definitely not all the mistakes. You're going to make in the School of Hard Knocks about 20, anywhere from 25 to 50 mistakes before you reach a mastery level. And each mistake is going to cost you somewhere between 500 to really $10,000-$20,000. So you just got to hope you don't make some of the bigger mistakes, and that you can kind of pick it up and learn a little bit faster. But you don't want to do these things with 15K. You're actually within that range where I would say there's two things in real estate: knowledge and money. The less you have of one, the more you have of the other. You need of the other. So if you have 15K, you need a ton of knowledge, because you're on the brink. Any mistake could wipe you out. If you had 150K, you would need substantially less knowledge, because you could afford to make a 15K mistake and still survive. But 15 running into the auction, I don't know. I would say invest in you first. If you haven't invested in mentorship yet, get into a mentorship program, and then take the remainder and put that into the game, and it will be safe. You'll know that when you get that into the game, you can actually get value out of the remainder, and you'll be able to stack up that money again. If you've been able to save 15K, you build a skill set, which is how to save 15K. So you did it once, you can do it again. And what you don't want to do is make that costly mistake to wipe yourself out of the game and then not learn anything simultaneously. Then you're out of money. You're sitting on the sidelines for 2 years trying to save up another 15K. You haven't learned anything, and you probably will become disgruntled with the game. You'll be wiped out. Have you ever considered doing other types of deals different to SFR? Well, I don't just do SFR, such as commercial. I do commercial and multifamily. So I don't just do single family rental properties. Single families are good, but multifamily is good. Commercial residential is really good. There's other types of commercial assets that are really good too. You just don't want to be in an office space business right now, because the office space business is taking a bit of a bath. It's going to be in a lot of pain. They're saying it won't recover potentially for as long as 10 to 15 years, maybe ever. And what I anticipate is that in most of these major cities, there's going to be, over the next 2 years, some major rezoning going on with these bigger commercial office spaces, where they're allowing them to be zoned into residential spaces, and pretty much like lofts and different things like that. It's pretty expensive to do it, but you're going to see that. But SFR is good, but you don't want to just be locked into SFR. Single SFR, guys, single family rentals. So you definitely, I would say the average person, if you're flipping, start SFR, single family flip. So I guess that's like SFF. So single family flips, and then look at multifamily if you're just getting started on the rental side, because it can offer some benefits. You can also do single family on the rental side. But there's pros and cons to each. I mean, we could talk about that in another session. Philip, should you have a relationship with a hard money lender before you find a deal, or do you come to a new lender with a deal in hand? I mean, it's a good question. So typically you're going to start a relationship with one hard money lender typically before you're getting on that first deal. So you want to get a pre-qualification. You want to get pre-approved with a lender first. Once you get pre-approved with them and you bring a deal to them and start executing on that deal, you're going to now have a relationship that you can scale. Now, once you have a relationship that you can scale, you should immediately start looking for other lenders, because what's going to happen, and I've told you guys this many times, is that lender's going to be funding all of your deals, and they're going to be like, bring it. Any deal you have, bring it. We can do unlimited deals. There's no limit to our money. We have all the money, and then somebody's going to burn them on a deal eventually one day on a big enough package, and they're going to lose so much money. They're going to be like, oh, we're getting a little tight. We're not going to fund more than 2 deals at a time for anyone anymore for the foreseeable future. And you're going to show up with a deal in hand like, hey, I got deal number 3. They're like, no, we're not doing it. So sorry, kid. And you want to have that other relationship immediately, or you're going to feel the stress and the pressure of trying to pivot while you have a deal under contract, potentially $2,000 to $5,000 in a security deposit on the hook. And, now they don't want to fund the deal. So there's definitely some of that going on. So you want to constantly have, I say this, like 3 of everything: 3 hard money lenders, 3 other just basic community-based lenders that'll offer construction loans. You want 3 long-term 30-year lenders. You want 3 portfolio lenders. You want some bridge lenders. You want to have a good mixture. You want to have a Rolodex. So if one person says no, you just keep picking up the phone, keep dialing. I have probably 10, 15 hard money lenders at this point in terms of relationships, and then even, other relationships. So I'm just waiting for the no at this point. I don't even care. To me, I'm like you have to be like a child in this game. You have to be like a 2-year-old. Go tell your 2-year-old no. They're going to do it anyway. They're going to keep going until they get the yes. A lot of us, we've had that kind of beaten out of us through life, but we're born with that. We're born with not accepting the first no. Not maliciously, but just in business, you have to keep that energy. You have to be like, no, okay, you said no. They might say yes. Dad said no, mom might say yes. So you have to just keep going, keep asking, keep pushing. And eventually you will get the yes. And you only need one yes in this game to get a deal financed. Once you get that yes, you can now leverage that yes into more success. So that's how you want to think about it. Shalyn, Brian, can you talk about some of the pros and cons of developing in opportunity zones? I wouldn't say there's any necessary cons in investing in an opportunity zone. In terms of pros, I mean, there are different tax benefits to investing in opportunity zones, especially if you start something like an opportunity zone fund, where you're raising money from investors who are looking for tax write-offs and different tax benefits, and you're going to park that money into an opportunity zone. As an individual investor, there's not necessarily a tax benefit. If you're just going to buy a property for yourself and you're going to buy and hold there's essentially no tax benefits to it. What other benefits can we say for opportunity zones? Maybe here's a con. I mean, not most, but a lot of opportunity zones that some of us are thinking about are in deep C-class neighborhoods, almost the D class. Like nobody's really putting money there. So you don't want to buy in an area just because it's an opportunity zone. Even what you want to do is find a perfect deal in the opportunity zone. So it's right on the outskirts of the A class. It might be in a C. It's in like the C plus class. It's going to flip over to a B class in the next 2 to 5 years. So you're going to get massive appreciation. You still want to do the same things. So what I found is this was really weird because I was like running like a madman on deals. And before I even really got hip to opportunity zones, and I looked back at my portfolio over like 100 plus properties at that time, and 40 to 45% were in opportunity zones. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know. Right. So naturally, the way that I teach you guys how to invest, by nature, many of your properties will fall in opportunity zones because they're in those tracks. They're in those tracks that are next to the A class that haven't fully been developed yet, where you can buy and pull value and make good money and build long-term wealth. So if you just follow the strategies that I teach in the 100 Keys Masterclass with Shalyn, you just tapped in, you have full access to that. That's going to get you to the next level there. So just stay tapped into the strategy and you'll naturally get that. But as an individual investor, you're not going to get massive benefits from the opportunity zones. How you get the benefits is if you start an opportunity fund and you're taking money from wealthy people who have capital gains issues that they want to get deferred, and they're going to then invest in the fund. The fund will invest in these areas, and then you can pass those tax benefits to the investors. And guys, one thing, because Shalyn just jumped in, she just hopped into the ride along. We're still pushing that ride along. Those ride along tickets are on sale right now. If you guys want hands on experience where you can spend a day with me in Philly, we will ride around on a party bus, take a tour of the city. I'm going to show you guys all the hot spots of where to invest in a city like Philly, all the up and coming areas, how close the activity is between A and C class, and how you guys can make money. We're going to see active rehab projects. We're going to meet contractors. We'll grab lunch. It's a good way to tap into real estate and truly get accelerated like a decade. Like, this is something that I wished someone would do for me, and nobody truly did for me. Is to give me that ride along, hands-on experience. Take me through the city. Show me how to evaluate a city, boots on the ground. And one of my claims to fame is you could drop me out of an airplane with a parachute and land me anywhere in the country and give me 2-3 weeks. I'll have a rehab crew. I'll have identified the best real estate within whatever municipality, and I'll be ready to rock and roll and make money. And that's how you want to be. When you have that feeling that you can make money anywhere, you're going to be there. Wesley said, yeah, the ride along is going to be life changing. It should be life changing. And Wesley's tapped into the ride along. I got to send you the link, Wes, later tonight. But yeah, it's on, guys. Like, it's freaking on. So get into this ride along. I don't do these often. I'm going with a small group this time. We only are going to have 10 seats open because I like to spend, you guys know this about me, I like to spend a lot of time with my people one-on-one. So I want to keep the group small so that I can answer all those small questions as we're riding around the city, as we're giving you this tour. I want you guys to get the most value. For those who attend, my job is to give you a decade's worth of experience in a day, and then all the content you need in terms of the course content to be successful long term. So this is definitely going to be a life-changing experience for a select few. It'll show you my boots on the ground program as well. And the value of the ride along ticket, we count it towards an upgrade into any program. If you want to get into my one-on-one VIP program, or if you want to get into my boots on the ground program, the value of the ride along ticket will count towards that. So it's an investment truly in your future education here. Antonio, looking for my first deal. Should I focus on that, or would a ride along? Yeah, the ride along is going to help you. It's going to help you get there faster, because this is what I've heard from the feedback. The knowledge, the one-on-one mentorship, it gives you everything, all the X and O's, everything you need. And it takes as much fear out as possible. But the ride along will get those last jitters out, those hands-on jitters, like those game time jitters. Like, you guys, if you play sports, sometimes you're in practice and you're balling out. But then when the lights come on and the game is on, some people get jittery. This will get rid of those game time jitters. This is going to give you that real hands-on experience where it's like, all right, we're going to step foot in the hood. You're going to feel the C class, and we're going to walk around, and a lot of you will be shocked and be like, wow, it's not that scary. This is not what I thought it would be. And you're like, yeah, now let's go in here. Let's see how this house is built. Okay, I understand now. It's gonna lock in all the knowledge, because it's gonna materialize it. This is the beautiful part about real estate, is that it's this physical asset that we can put our hands on, that we can feel and touch. So when you get out and feel and touch this real estate, and you're accessing my knowledge, my decades plus worth of knowledge while we're doing this, it's going to accelerate you. It's going to bring you up to where I'm at in terms of this game, and how I truly walk and feel this real estate, and how I analyze these deals in these neighborhoods. So it's gonna really accelerate you guys. You said, do you invest in Virginia? I invest in that area, mostly in Maryland, because it's a little cheaper than Virginia, especially if you're like Arlington and some of those more expensive pockets. Not that there's not good deals in Virginia, and you can flip in Virginia. I like Maryland more. I like Baltimore, Delaware, Jersey, Philly. So I'm in a couple other markets. But we do have, mentees in Virginia that I'm helping to do deals in Philly, and also tap into rural Maryland, Baltimore, and some of these other pockets where your money can go a lot further. So maybe you don't know this. This may be your first mastermind call, but we have mentees from all over the country, from Hawaii to Canada, so even outside of the country, all the way down, from Washington, LA, Arizona, Texas, all the way through, Florida and Mississippi and Memphis and all that, all the way up to Carolinas, through Virginia, all the way up into Boston and Maine, and then all the way out through Ohio and kind of everything else, man. So Colorado, Idaho, Arkansas. So we're working with people from all over the country. Here's the thing: none of this stuff changes. A rehab's a rehab. Deal analysis is deal analysis. Comps are comps. So that kind of is what it is, right? The knowledge is the knowledge. This stuff is truly about you building that perfect deal criteria and then having the action steps and the national lending relationships to execute, and being guided through that process so that you're not picking the wrong deal. You have to get off to a running start. If we can get you your first deal to be your best deal, you're going to win, bottom line, because you're going to learn how to do it the right way from day one, and then you're going to go do it 100 times. You have done it the right way 100 times. If you get off to the wrong path, you're going to sit on the sidelines for another 2 years. You're going to lick your wounds, and maybe you're one of the brave few who can stand back up and take on the beast again. Many don't. Many just get disgruntled and they stay stuck in a 9-to-5 forever. They retire unhappy and they just live that life out. Some are smart enough, I think, to tap into mentorship. Tapping into mentorship is an intelligence. Some people view it as like a like they're like failing somehow by tapping into knowledge and mentorship, but it's actually a sign of intelligence. It's a sign that you know what you know and you know what you don't know, and you're being wise with your money because you don't want to make a mistake that's going to burn you. So it kind of helps you out. So that's all I can say about that. Any Zoom tickets for the ride along? I'm not sure what you mean by Zoom tickets. Maybe you mean any room for tickets for the ride along. I mean, we still have a few tickets left, but they're going quickly. I've been getting a lot of inquiries. We just put them for sale like a couple days ago, but yeah, there's a lot of interest. So anybody who's interested in the ride along, definitely reach out. There's a video on the YouTube channel. I think I dropped it a couple days ago. You probably got a text about it. I sent out emails about it. The pricing is there. Everything's there. That's included. It's full disclosure. So if you want to tap in, just DM me, email me, text me, and I'll send you a sign up link. And once we're booked, we're booked out. The next one could be sometime next year. I mean, I don't do these a ton. Jackie said, what's the ride along? That's where I take you on a ride along of Philly. I get what you're saying. Is there like a Zoom? I don't think I'm doing a Zoom. I am going to have a cameraman recording all of this, and maybe I'll release that footage, maybe not, right? Maybe I'll make that available to the ride along people. I might upload it into the masterclass, but it still wouldn't do the justice like a Zoom. And there are some people who will like just record these things. Oh, you do the virtual ride along. The purpose of the ride along is to be there, is to physically get it. You won't get the full value unless you're there. You need to stand foot and get the fear out. So part of it is being there. The ride along is July 29th, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. We'll grab lunch. We'll tour the city, see a bunch of projects. I'm going to try to pack in like 8 to 10 projects. So we're going to see a ton. We're going to drive all around. We'll have a good time. It's a real good time. And I got my best cameraman on this one. So it's going to be good. What is the ride along? It's where I take you on a tour of Philly. I show you rehab projects, meet contractors. We see active renovations, full gut renovations, cosmetic renovations. We inspect deals. So we'll go and look at properties that are still on the market, like right now, that are target properties that I'm identifying for either myself or for our boots on the ground members. And we will inspect those together. I will show you how I look at properties, what I'm looking for. And this is going to accelerate your knowledge like tenfold. So definitely, if you've been looking for this type of experience, you want to tap in. You don't want to miss out on this. Should you also have relationships with multiple title? Yes. Just like lenders and contractors, or one title company would suffice. It depends. Like, you want to almost expand yourself with title companies as you're early in the game. You don't want to overdo it, but you don't want to be fearful of working with other title companies to kind of spread it around, because what you'll find is if you keep working with multiples, you'll start to see the main players within the municipality, within the city. And there's usually like 4 or 5 main title companies, and you want to be comfortable with them, because sometimes the sellers will come to you and be like, we have to use my title company. And now when I hear that, because I've been in the game a long time, people are like, oh, we got to use their title company, Brian, people in the Boots on the Ground program. And I'm like, oh, I know them. They're good. They're good people. Don't worry about it. Or I'll know they're bad people. Nah, we're not going to do them. We're going to push back. But having that confidence because you dealt with multiple people is good. Now, what you will find is when you're on the buy side and you have the ability to choose the title company, you're always going to go with your same person. You're going to fall in love with one title company, with one title agent, your go-to person. You're going to build that relationship, and you're just going to fall in love with them because it becomes so easy. And that person, it's part of the game that goes missed. But your title agent is everything in this game. If you have a bad title company and agent, about 30 to 35% of your deals will get killed in title, meaning they can't clear it because the person's not competent enough, can't think outside of the box, or they're just not, just not good enough overall, or they're swamped with work and they can't focus on your case enough. If it's not easy to them, they're just going to backburn it, and it'll never happen. So having that relationship is so important. So you will fall in love with one person, but having that experience of multiple people, like dating around, you just have better experience. You'll have more familiarity with some of the major players within a municipality. So yeah, we're not going to have a Zoom on this one. Maybe I'll set it up at some point, but I don't think so. I like to keep these things personal. So my focus is not on the camera. It's on my people. The camera can kind of roll, but it's really on the people there and their questions. I want my focus to be really tapped in so that my people who are at the ride along are getting the maximum value. Because if I'm not giving you guys maximum value, there's no point in doing it. I don't need a ride along, right? I'm trying to give this to a select few who are really looking for this. Can you elaborate on the difference between your VIP and the Boots on the Ground program? So the VIP you consider more of like a done with you. So it's a true, we're holding your hand through deals. We're giving you access to one-on-one Zoom calls directly with me, one-on-one text and email support directly with me, no assistance. So as you have questions, I'm texting you, I'm reaching out to you, I'm educating you guys. The mastermind calls, recordings of them, these will shift back to private Zooms at some point, so they won't be publicly available. So you'll get all the recordings there's probably about 50 private Zoom calls, PowerPoint presentations, full walkthroughs that you'll have access to immediately with the course content. And then it breaks down my 100 Keys Masterclass course content that shows you how I went from 0 to over 300 buy and hold rental properties, about a 5 to 7 year period. So how that scale up happens, all the different systems knowledge, everything that's included in that, how to scale up with virtual assistants, all of it. It breaks it all down. So that is the VIP. The Boots on the Ground is the done for you. So if you're a busy professional, there are people out there who are like, yo, I'm busy. I got, 50 grand and I just need somebody to help me to invest this thing and find a deal, build it for me, help me to flip it, help me to tenant it, property management, all of that stuff, like a full service. That's the Boots on the Ground, where we find the properties for you. We will run all the deal analysis. We'll help you to get the deals under contract. I just actually got a text while we're talking that a deal went under contract for one of our Boots on the Ground members from Hawaii. So from Hawaii, it's happening in Philly. A deal just went under contract. So once it's under contract, we have the rehab budgets. We send in the contractors to confirm it. We will get that all inked so that we're on a fixed budget, and then we will build through that house for you on budget pretty quickly. As you know, some of the full gut projects can drag on because there's a lot of different issues, permit issues, some of these different things. Some of the smaller projects, the single family, that's like 2 stories, 1,200 square feet, 3 bed, 2 bath, something quick. Those can get built through in like 6 to 8 weeks. They can go really fast, especially if you're flipping those or holding. And then we'll help you with property management, tenanting, kind of all those things. So that's Boots on the Ground. So Boots on the Ground, you consider more, we're just building a house. We're just doing it all for you. But it's still the ultimate learning experience because now you're seeing literally how I do things internally in-house. It's the same process. I only do things one way. And then the VIP mentorship program is like, for like my guy who's like, I'm in Virginia, I want to do a deal in Virginia. I will hold your hand through a Virginia deal, essentially show you how to build the rehab crews, the construction crews, connect you with lenders, connect you with all the resources you need, and then, help you to execute on that deal. So it just depends on what you want. It just depends on what you want and kind of where you're at and what your hurdle is. If your hurdle is just knowledge, then the VIP mentorship program, I mean, somebody working with you one-on-one who's done hundreds of deals and has over a decade of experience will get you there. If your issue is time, like I have more money than I have time, so I actually could just take my money and go out and do this, but I'm like, I'm jammed up. Like I don't have enough time, or I got the kids and, the spouse and the job, and I'm just afraid that I don't have the time to dedicate to this, but I have the capital. Can you show me how to really tap in and lock in? And can you take the heavy lifting on? And we have that system where we can take on the heavy lifting burden of kind of all this stuff that we're teaching you. So either way is extremely valuable. Are we going through multifamily we're going through both multifamily, single family. We're going to go through the full mix. We'll see some single to multifamily conversion deals. We're going to see some deals actively on the market. We're going to go around and we're going to see just a lot. Like I'm going to show you guys the full spectrum of this game. We'll see some properties that are on the tax sale. We'll talk about how to evaluate those as well. Like I'm going to try to give you guys the whole thing, what we call the whole kit and caboodle. Wesley said VIP is worth it if anyone is wondering. Yeah, don't sleep on the VIP. Like the VIP, most people are getting their deals in about 90 days or less. So do not sleep on you can't sleep on one-on-one mentorship. It almost doesn't exist out there, by the way. Most of these programs out there are group courses. A group course means there's no one-on-one. So you don't get any one-on-one Zoom calls. You don't get one-on-one text and email support. You just get group calls. And then you get like some course content, limited, and then multiple upsells. For the VIP people, I mean, you can ask them, have I upsold you guys something? Like, no. I mean, we might have a ride along here. We might have a boots on the ground program. These are different programs, but it's not even like I really push somebody into boots on the ground. Boots on the ground is there for those who need it. And it's also limited. I can't build houses for everybody, unfortunately. Like I just can't. So we're already pretty much at capacity on the boots on the ground where we barely can accept any new applicants. So yeah, the VIP is the top level. Even as we create new course content, we upload it to the VIP masterclass so that you guys can tap into that. Uplifting Sunshine said, "You're awesome. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the love and all the feedback. Guys, like, comment, subscribe. Share this content with somebody who you think will get value out of it. If you're getting value, then share it. Pass that value on. You get rewarded for giving value to others. You get rewarded. It will get replenished. So make sure you guys are out there giving that value. Let's get back on track. Keep the questions coming. Keep that coming because it's really good for people. So micro, when you're getting into kind of this perfect deal thing, staying back on task, does the deal make sense? So you're looking at some of these things like the zoning. Can I convert this from single to multifamily? What value does the zoning offer me, and how does that fit my criteria? So there are going to be properties that are zone multifamily, but are currently being used as a single. So you could buy it and then take the underlying zoning of the land and convert this thing into a multifamily project and then execute on that. And that, I mean, it's a lot of value, but you have to have the acumen to do that type of underwriting. The rehab budget. Do you know how to put together rehab budgets? If you don't know how to build a proper rehab budget, you're kind of behind in the game. I recently added in a secondary level of analysis that I did with one of our VIP members in a one-on-one private Zoom call where we walked through a deal. We watched the inspection video and then we built a rehab budget step by step. And that's in the 100 Keys Masterclass. And this is a rehab budget that you could literally copy and send to a hard money lender for approval. So we broke through that process and the thought process that goes behind that. It's right in the 100 Keys Masterclass in the breakout sessions. For those who are in the masterclass, it's one of the, I think it is the last breakout session. So definitely tap into that. If you guys haven't tapped into the masterclass, some of you might have finished going through that course content months ago. Go back in, tap into the last session. You'll get a lot of value. But building rehab budgets, understanding the cost of construction is the meat and potatoes of real estate investing. If you're investing in cars, you would need to know what a mechanic knows, how to put cars back together, how much the materials cost, how long it takes, and how to source the materials, right? So you need to know that type of information for real estate investing. Um, the rent amounts, how much can you rent these properties for? Is this a city with strong rents? Is this a city with low rents? You need to know this type of micro detail when you're analyzing like for the perfect deal. And then the rent programs. So if I go into somewhere like Delaware has like 8 government programs that will pay 100% of the rent. It's insane. If I go into Philly, there's really just Section 8, and then there's veteran housing. There's some other things like there'll be like some temporary housing for like abused women's, or like some of the women coming out of the shelters that have like located in the shelters because of domestic violence, and they'll have different programs to relocate them, which is like short term, where they'll give money for maybe like 6 months and then they just kind of pull the plug, which is it's not the greatest position. And it's not that you might not want to help people. You can definitely want to help people, but these programs are just like putting people in your property, but not necessarily having a long-term plan to support that transition. So if they fall on hard times, they just fall back into the shelter, or they become like a squatter. Now you're filing eviction, and you don't want to be in that position with people. Like, you don't want to get into this business and constantly put yourself in a position where you're filing evictions. So you want to do a lot of this micro analysis. Some other things you want to do is the friendliness test. The friendliness test. I don't know if I even made that up, but you want to know, is this area landlord friendly or tenant friendly? So what kind of city is this? There's red cities and blue cities. And then there's cities that are tenant friendly, but to various degrees. Like, there are some that are extremely friendly, where it's like you can't even evict anybody for 2 years. That's like a New York or like a California, where it's just insane, and you just don't even want to be a landlord there. Then there are places that are landlord friendly. There are some places in America where you don't have to file eviction. If somebody doesn't pay their rent, you can literally just do a lockout in like 2 days. It's crazy. You wouldn't believe it, but you could just go, show up, hey, you don't have my rent. Wait, camp somebody outside of the house. As soon as they leave, change the locks, boom, put a notice on the door, call it a day. Like, there are places like that. So you have to understand where you're at and how does that fit your criteria as a landlord if you're going to do this landlord thing. And then there are some balanced markets as well that are kind of a balance of the two. I'm a big fan of like balanced markets where, you know, it has the right protections, because you do want fairness in the system. So there's going to be some protections for tenants, even if they're not paying. And then there's going to be a fair process if you go through it, if you have your paperwork right, and if you file everything, then there's going to be a 60-day, 90-day eviction process, and that's fine. You also want to know, is the area developer friendly? Is this a developer friendly area? Is this short-term rental friendly? A lot of you guys are like, Brian, can I do Airbnb and short-term rentals? Well, I mean, if you're in a place like Texas where they're just banning Airbnb, or Miami or Atlanta or Philly or New York, where they're essentially coming up with regulations to ban Airbnb, it ain't really short-term rental friendly. It might be developer friendly though. So developer friendly means, if you're buying land, or if you're trying to get variances to build things. So I want to build something that does not have the proper underlying zoning, but I want to build multifamily anyway. Can I go stand in front of a zoning board and get approval to do this? In a developer friendly city, I can. If this area is not developer friendly, I can't. So you have to understand some of these things with the friendliness test. Guys, keep dropping your questions, like, comment, subscribe, share the content. And let me get into the last section of this thing. This is the bonus kind of material. This is the fine print, which is financing. Financing is always important. I mean, we've gone on some rants about how many different types of lenders you need to be successful. Not all deals can be financed. Not all deals can be financed, right? So here are 2 types of deals that can't be easily financed at times. One is, is the loan amount too small or too large? So there are deals that could be too large, but on average, the larger the deal, the more attractive it is to the lender, because they're just like, oh, I'm going to get paid more, right? They're charging origination fees and interest based on the size of the loan. So the bigger, the better to them. But smaller deals, on a smaller deal, if you're looking at it through the purview of the lender, I have to do the same amount of work on a smaller deal, on a $50,000 loan, as I do on a $150,000 or $500,000 loan. Only I make 10 times the money off of the $500,000 loan as I do on the 50. So why would I want to be writing a bunch of 50s? This is why a place like Detroit can be a bad deal for you if you want to scale up, if you want to really grow a portfolio there. It can really hurt you because the lenders aren't bought in, not only because they're not bought into the city itself, but because the real estate is so cheap on average, they're not doing deals that small. Most lenders will have a cutoff of around 75,000 or more. I would say most are 100,000 is their lower level loan amount. Some are 75. I've seen some go down to 50. You really need to go to a credit union if you're going sub 50, or a community lender who's not full for profit. They're kind of more just there to develop the neighborhoods and to provide money to developers and to the community, to provide liquidity. But they're not really there as like, hey, we got to hit our numbers and hit our profit targets or the investors are going to be upset. That's not really what they're worried about. So in some of these places, you need to understand the deal itself. It might be attractive to go out and look for 30K deals or 40K deals in Baltimore. But can you finance them? Have you connected with the right lenders to get this financing done? Because if not, you're going to run out of money like everybody else, and then you're done. So you have to think about some of those things. Another deal that is difficult to finance, which many of you you've never been forced to think about these things or come into these situations, is what we call an upside down deal. An upside down deal. So this is also looking at it through the lender's purview. There's two types of deals for a construction lender. There's a deal that costs 100K and then needs 50K of renovation. And then there's a deal that costs 50K and needs 100K of renovation. So a deal that costs 100K in terms of the purchase price and then needs 50K of renovation, that 50K is smaller than 100K. So it's like a regular deal. Now, if you flip it, if the deal costs 50K and you're going to put 100K into it, you might come and say, look, I got this incredible deal. I got it for 50 grand. I'll put 100K into it. It'll be worth 250. The lender's going to love this. I got this deal for 20 cents on the dollar. They're actually going to hate it. They're going to call it an upside down deal. And they're going to say it's risky because you're buying it for 50. You're putting in more money in renovations than you purchased it for. So they're going to look at it as risky because they just don't like the setup. They don't really understand real estate. And I say this all the time about lenders. A lot of you get shocked by this when you run into it and you're like, whoa, these lenders really don't know anything about real estate. But 90% of lenders don't know anything about real estate. Most of them have never done a deal before. The principal of the lender, the person who's in charge, the president, they've never really done a deal before. Maybe they're an attorney. Maybe there's some other profession. They come from asset management and now they're running a lending company because they like the numbers aspect. They don't know the cost of construction. They don't know how deals are really made. They've never dealt with contractors. So they don't know anything. So when you come to them with a deal and they see it and they just say, well, it's upside down. That doesn't fit in our little sandbox. They don't really understand, hey, this is safer because all of the money that you're lending, more of it's going into value. If I bought it for 100K and you're only giving me 50K to improve it, I can only do 50K of improvements. If I bought it for 50K, you're giving me 100K, I can actually improve it much more and make it much safer and still do this at 65% of the after repair value, but they don't understand that. And you don't want to be in a position with your lender where you're trying to educate them because they're not looking to be educated. They're just looking at their sandbox and it either fits or it doesn't. So you have to also understand when you're finding that perfect deal, does the financing fit? Will the financing kind of work out? And if it doesn't, they're going to kill your deal. And you're going to be in that position where you wish you had all of these different lending relationships that I've been talking to you guys about, because you're going to have to go to the next lender and the next lender until you get your yes. So that breaks down your criteria. Let's keep getting into your questions. I'll keep flowing for as long as you guys have questions, and then we'll kind of tap out. But we've covered a ton today, a ton of game, especially for essentially a holiday. So here's another question from Wes. What are the common pitfalls to avoid when investing in buy and hold rental properties, especially for a beginner? Underwriting is probably the number one. So underwriting your tenants, picking the right tenants. When you first start the business, you still have a heart. You're like you're the opposite of the Grinch. Like you come into this game, everybody does, with a huge heart. Especially as a landlord, you only landlord if you care about people to a degree. So you're like, hey, I want to help people, and I really like people and XYZ. And you get into that heart business until one of these tenants literally rips out your heart out of your chest. If you guys seen like the Cable Guy, Jim Carrey, that scene where he, for those of you who've seen this movie, where he's like doing all the karate, and the cook comes in and rips his heart out of his chest and puts it in a doggy bag. Oh no, he rips the chef's heart out of his chest, puts it in a doggy bag, and hands it to him. It's essentially that. That's what these tenants will do to you. They will rip your heart out of your chest, and you then will learn how to underwrite well for tenants, because you're initially going to fall in love with the people, and you're not going to know, if you're not doing this with mentorship, how to actually screen and do the background checks and see if they've been evicted and how much money to collect up front and kind of all these things, because you're going to be excited about getting your first tenant, and you're going to get burned. I actually just had a property that I had been working on getting tenanted for a while. We got a tenant in. We were dealing with the, I guess, fiance or girlfriend, right? And then the guy comes in, and he sends a laundry list. I mean, they already signed a lease. So when you sign a lease, you're assigning to accept the property as is. He comes in after signing the lease, money down, and he's got a laundry list. Oh, I want the cabinet stained. I want the mirrors hand washed, and all of this stuff. And I'm just like, bro, like, what are you talking about? And he just keeps going. We stain the cabinets. We do this. He's got more. He's got more. And I just tell the leasing agent, just get him out. I don't even want him. He says he'll leave if this isn't going to happen. Get him out. Because the attitude, I've been around the block so many times, and he's not expecting this, but the attitude, I see it, and I'm like, this guy's got an attitude. He thinks this is something that isn't. And I know we're going to be sitting in court, because he's going to decide he wants all this. He thinks he's going to get a full gut renovation on a rental property. And then as soon as he don't get it, I ain't paying the rent. Then you're in a eviction situation, and I will evict, and I don't care. I'll just push the button and I'll go back to sleep. Like it doesn't make me a difference, because I've done it so many times. But I was just like, let him leave. He wants to leave. Okay, great. Give him the keys. Get him out. I don't care. The property can sit there for another month or two. Get another tenant. I don't care. Get another tenant. So you start to become like that, because you start to understand this isn't the speed game. It's not about the speed of everything. When you're new, you're a beginner, you want everything fast. Get the tenant in fast, get everything fast. Sometimes you got to move slow to move fast. Sometimes you got to move slow to move fast. Not move backwards. Not move so fast that you got to then walk backwards. One step forward, two step back. So that's the number one most common pitfall of a new buy and hold rental property investor, is picking the wrong tenant. If you pick the right tenant, you're going to have a good time. You're going to collect your money. You pick the wrong tenant, you're in for a world of pain. The second is just not having your paperwork together, not knowing the licenses. You need your rental license. You need your use and occupancy. You need your lead inspection. You need your XYZ. You got to register it with the EPA. Most people don't know any of these things until they go to evict. You go to evict, and then the judge says, well, where's your paperwork? And you say, what paperwork? And now you're in for the circle of death, where now you're trying to get your paperwork after the fact, and now the tenant's just sitting there squatting in your property. And then you say, oh, this is crazy. How can they squat? This doesn't make any sense. But if you don't have your paperwork right, then you actually don't have the right to collect the rent. So it can hurt you. It can really hurt you. So those are some common things. There's more. I mean, I could probably go for another hour on this stuff, right? There's just so many issues, but it's the reason why you want to tap into mentorship. If you don't, and some people look at the cost of mentorship as expensive. Mentorship's expensive. No, having a squatter not pay you $1,200 a month for 8 months because you made a stupid mistake is expensive. And here's the thing: somebody can tell you mentorship, and I think I said this on the last live. Somebody can say, "Look, mentorship's $5,000,000," and you're like, "I don't want to pay that." But when a tenant squats on you and you lose $1,200 a month, you can't tell the tenant, "I don't want to pay that $1,200 a month. I don't want to lose that $1,200 a month." There's nobody to tell. When a School of Hard Knocks puts its hands out and says, "Pay me," you pay it, or you get foreclosed on, or you lose, or your credit gets wrecked, or all these nightmare situations happen. There is no, "I don't want to do that." There is not this indignance. Essentially, you're just going to pay, or you're going to fail. So the thing is, you can't hit what you can't see. So when somebody tells you the cost of mentorship, you can look at it, identify it, and say, "I don't want to do that." But you cannot jump into this game as an investor and say, "I don't want to pay the School of Hard Knocks." And not only are you going to pay the School of Hard Knocks, you're going to pay it every dime, and it's 100 times more expensive. So if that lesson is a $500,000 lesson, you're going to pay it. If it's a $100,000 lesson, you're going to pay it. Whatever it is, you're going to pay. And you have no idea what it is. The only way to avoid it is through mentorship. And this ain't the only mentorship program out there. So this is not, the only way to avoid it is through me. That's not what this is. But the only way to avoid it is through mentorship. So go pick the right mentor. If I'm your guy, then get in and hurry up before there ain't an opportunity to get in. If somebody else is your guy, go get in. Let me get back to Dr. Glock. Brian, what do you think? Do you think there's going to be more rate hikes? Brian, do you think there's going to be more rate hikes? Yes and no. I mean, the Fed will probably do a hike, I think this month, maybe 0.25%, because they sat still last month. They may stay flat this month as well. We really don't quite know. But what we do know is the long-term trajectory, I would say by the end of this year, is that rates start ticking back down. There was actually a really funny, somebody made a reel, and it's like a guy walking with he's got like a cup of coffee and a newspaper. Why he has that, I don't know. But he's like walking at a very slow pace. And it shows interest rate 7%. Then it shows interest rate 6.5. And he starts like power walking. And another guy comes out next to him, throws his cup of coffee down, and starts walking him down. And he's like looking over his shoulder. Then it shows interest rate 6%. Another guy comes out, and now they're like jogging. Then interest rates 5.5. Now they're like really running. A fourth guy comes in. Then once it hits 5, there's like 3 more people jump in. They're all sprinting. And at the end it says, by the time you wake up, it's too late. And that's what's going to happen to a lot of people who are sitting on the sidelines worrying about interest rates. Is by the time you wake up and you start to see the rates going down, and all the buyers start flooding the market, and you don't even have the knowledge, the systems, the criteria, all these things we talked about today down pat, you're going to be running scared, looking at the competition, and you're going to miss out on an opportunity. But it was the funniest reel for like the people who know and the people who are tapped into real estate. It was the funniest thing. It's like, wow, that's such a great way to like present what's about to happen. Kendricks, you better tap into the mentorship program, man. But I'm still give you this free game. When you're working with the lenders, are they still requiring you to have 3 or more deals to give you cheaper rates? Not really. Most lenders, after you do your first deal and you're proven, then they will immediately start to drop rates. And the more that you do, the more rates will drop. So you just have to keep doing deals. You look at the first deal as the cost of doing business, as the cost of getting started, and then you just keep dropping and keep dropping and keep dropping. Like the more deals you do, the cheaper everything gets. So when you first start in this game, it can be like, it feels super expensive. But the longer you go, everything gets cheaper and you start making more money. But definitely tap into the mentorship program, bro. Yeah, Care Bear. When you first get into this game, you're a Care Bear. You love everybody. You're the buddy bear. You want to get along. And then after a while, you're like, look, these tenants better have this money, or you have your eviction attorney on speed dial, essentially. And you have all your paperwork together. And you just tell them up front, I know you might have been at a spot where they didn't have the paperwork together. It was a mom and pop shop. This ain't it. If you have an intent of not paying, you kind of wish that you did. This is not the place, so you probably don't even want to move in. And that was the tone I set with that tenant who was trying to get me to do a full gut renovation on a rental property. It's not my first rodeo, bro. I'm not doing it. I just stopped doing. I'm not doing the work. What's up? Like, I see where you're headed, and you think you're going to get me to do more work. But I wasn't concerned. You guys have to understand this. It's not that I care about doing the work. It was the intent of it. It was the fact that he showed up after signing the lease with a laundry list, and his intent was it was a test. You guys might not understand this. This was not about me staining cabinets or doing these things. This was a test to see what he could get away with. Because as soon as I start jumping, he's saying, jump. Like I'm at a circus. You jump. I say how high and you jump. That's what he was trying to test. And as soon as I did that, then it would have been, I need this fixed. I need this done. I need a washer dryer. And if I don't get it, I'm not paying the rent. That was the next. It was an attitude problem. And I showed him, I ain't doing nothing. Because I already see where this is headed. So if this is what it is, just get out. You're going to pass my test. I don't have to impress you. And the property's already in a good neighborhood, so I definitely don't have to impress him. He can go back. He can take that attitude to the hood. He can take it to the D class. Wesley Nunes. Any comments on Kensington area and Philly? Gentrification has definitely started. Would it be smart to get in now if you can find a good deal? Definitely. You just have to be careful of like under the bridge on Kensington Ave. You don't want to really be under the bridge. Kensington's rough right now, and they got to solve that drug problem. But if you're in like old Kensington, not under the bridge, but kind of on the west side of that activity, there's some really good pockets of Kensington that you can definitely tap into that have a lot of value. But you just have to be careful. Some of the cheaper properties are in some of the rougher parts. And while it may be gentrifying, it's hard to time that. Because look, I know people like hedge funds that jumped in like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And they're like, and now's the time, it's turning over. And then it didn't. And they just liquidated all the properties. So most people have been wrong on trying to time that market. Eventually, at some part, like there's Kensington and then there's Harrogate. And then there's Port Richmond below Harrogate. If you can get deeper into Harrogate off of Kensington Avenue, so a little south of that, but still north of Port Richmond, there's a pocket there where I think you can grab there, and Port Richmond as it builds up towards Kensington Ave, that's your better bet, is Harrogate. And then getting out even into Frankfurt. You know what I'm talking about because you're from here. So getting out to Frankfurt on the cusp of Harrogate and Frankfurt, that's really where you want to be, or get all the way west. So if you're going to get east, get into Harrogate, east into Harrogate, almost into Frankfurt, and then as close to Port Richmond, as south, close to the waterline as possible. If you're not doing that, go west into Old Kensington. You know, that's where you want to go. Have you had any issues with lenders lending to an LP versus an LLC? No, Shalyn, but I mean, we spoke about it. I think the issue is going to be really like the foreign national thing. That's going to be more the issue than the structure. They don't necessarily care about an LP versus an LLC, as long as it's not you, right? So as long as there is some distance or some separate entity with a separate tax ID, that's more of the structure that the lender is looking for. Because if somebody's going to lend to you personally, usually you would have the ability to own or occupy. When they say you can't own or occupy, it's usually LLC'd out. So no, you're not going to have any issues there. The banks just gave notice of a wave of foreclosures coming. Is there opportunity? Of course. There's definitely going to be a lot of opportunity with foreclosures. There's definitely going to be a wave of foreclosures coming in multiple markets. They've been upticking month over month all year, and they're going to keep ticking. There's a lot of foreclosures that are going to hit. You see things like the Supreme Court is like, kicking the buck back on student loan forgiveness, and don't expect any, foreclosure moratoriums or anything anytime soon. So there's definitely going to be activity, which means you need to know how to go after motivated sellers. Motivated sellers, most people's issue is they don't know how to get in front of motivated sellers, which would be people in pre-foreclosure, foreclosure. The real issue that you don't know is your issue is, because I could just go like this and get you in front of them, is you don't know how to talk to them even if you got in front of them. It's like the guy who thinks like, I can't get a date. I don't know I don't know where all the, good women are and this, that, and the third. And it's like, no, even though I put you in front of, good women, you wouldn't know how to talk to her. Like you wouldn't even be able to break the ice. You don't know how to speak real estate yet at that level to really solve somebody's problem. So you have to learn the lingo and know how to really solve problems for people who are in these motivated seller positions. Because the more problems you can solve, the more money you can make. But there's definitely going to be a wave. So this is the time to get in on that knowledge. Is there opportunity in commercial malls? Commercial malls aren't doing bad. So you have to understand in the commercial space, the thing that's doing bad is commercial office space. Commercial malls aren't doing bad. People are back shopping. That fear that you're going to go out and get sick and all that's gone. Nobody even cares about that anymore. So all of these commercial shopping spaces are actually doing well again. They're doing good. People are going to the movies, people are doing all that stuff. So it's really just the office space that is going to be opportunity. So I wouldn't say there's more opportunity in commercial malls. In fact, those opportunities are more expensive. You need more capital traditionally to invest in those types of assets, and rates are higher. So I wouldn't necessarily say there's a ton of opportunity there, but it's a good question. Your opportunity would be here's your opportunity. Keep your eye on the market. Stay tapped into the municipalities, the different cities that are looking to pass regulation to allow the emergency rezoning of commercial office spaces into residential. That's going to be where the opportunity is. It's when you can buy some of that stuff. Because even once that happens, there's a lot of land that is commercial zoned, purely commercial zoned, that even though these regulations, they're going to push it for the big commercial space, I can almost guarantee you it will still have a loophole where it applies to even the small commercial zone land. So now you can target land that traditionally was not of a high value, because a lot of developers don't like to build ground up commercial in residential areas because it limits you. It's like, what am I going to put a freaking barbershop here? Right? It limits you. But if you could take that and now you can do it all residential, that land is going to be undervalued. There's going to be a lot of value there. There's going to be a lot of assets there where you have the commercial storefront and a couple of apartments. And you can just buy it, blow up the storefront, build another apartment, and you can make more money. Ace Deuce said, BG spitting those facts. Definitely spitting those facts. The better the questions you guys ask, the better answers, there are, which is why I encourage you guys to stay tapped into the lives, ask as many questions as possible. Because a lot of people, will learn from you guys and your questions. Would you recommend trying to be your own GC for your first hard money deal? You can be, but the risk of being your own GC is really like the insurance aspect. If something goes wrong, if somebody gets hurt, do you have the property? Do you have the casualty insurance? Do you have the workers' comp insurance? Do you have all these things that you need? That's really where the risk is. So, there's a lot there. There's just a lot there. So you have to just stay tapped in, but definitely being your own GC could be a great way to save a lot of money on your project. So you almost do want to GC your first project. You almost want to GC all of your projects, but not in the literal sense. So you're always, as a developer, the GC, you're always calling the shots. You're always managing the projects, but you may have a guy who's kind of working with you, who is the GC, who has the subs on his insurance, who is kind of managing the field while you're dealing with the lenders and doing the kind of the other things. So there's a pro and con, because there's a value in getting the distance from the actual construction, because you don't want to be on everything, right? Is wholesaling saturated? Wholesaling is saturated in the traditional sense. Now, creative financing is not saturated, because very few people know about creative financing. Very few people know how to go out and structure a lease purchase option, or a sandwich lease option, or a subject to deal, or some of these different strategies out there. So if you learn creative financing, you now take a saturated market and you unlock yourself from it. So what you guys need to learn is how to become a creative financier, how to think outside of the box, how to do deals differently. Because once you learn that, you can now go to the wholesalers who are in this saturated market and you can say, hey, do you have any deals that you can't sell? I have a creative solution that you probably don't know about. Let's partner on this deal and split the commission here. And you don't even have to go out and find motivated sellers now. You could just find wholesalers who have motivated sellers that they don't know what to do with. So you have to flip this game on its head. Sign to the Grind. That's a good name. So thank you again for the knowledge. Priceless. I'm glad I'm here relatively early in your YouTube journey. Definitely stay tapped in. YouTube has been that platform that I think has allowed a lot of people to get more value, out of what I do, especially with these lives. So you guys should definitely stay tapped in here. We're just about to cross over 10,000 subs. So the proof is in the pudding, as they say. Getting 10,000 subs up is definitely an indicator that the knowledge we're putting out is good and people are getting the value. So appreciate the feedback. Definitely stay tapped in. West said, got you. Definitely, GC your first project, especially with your construction background. You want to do that. What do you think of wholesaling off the MLS? That works too, but also creative financing. You have to have the creative financing tool belt to be a master at this, because wholesaling traditionally, there's only so many deals that fit in that bucket. Let's say if we had a bucket of 20 deals that were all, you were looking at them all from a motivated seller standpoint. There's 20 deals and you're looking at these as hey, I have 20 motivated sellers. How do I structure the best deal for these people? About 5 of those deals will fall into the traditional wholesaling. That's where you can put the property under contract for $50K, mark it up to $60K, sell it, make a profit. The other 15 are going to require creative financing solutions. So if you don't have creative financing solutions on your tool belt, you're going to miss out on the lion's share of the deals, whether they're on the MLS, whether they're with other wholesalers, whether they're at auctions or different resources. You're going to miss out on it. So the truth is, the knowledge is going to unlock you. It's going to give you the tools to allow you to see more value, more deals, and that's going to put you on the fast track to more success. So guys, it looks like we're out of questions. I hope this helped. Definitely stay tapped in. Reach out for that ride along if you want the hands-on experience. Those tickets are going fast. There's only 10 seats, and we've already sold multiple seats. So we're probably down to like 3 seats left. So definitely tap in there. Tap into the VIP mentorship program if you want to get into this game and you want to learn creative financing, all these other strategies that are going to get you in. Even if you're starting out with no cash, no credit, we can still tap you into the strategies that'll work for you. Like, comment, subscribe, share the video, share the content with somebody who can get value out of this. Wes says send that link, bro. He wants the link to the ride along, so I'm going to send that later tonight, so you'll have that and you'll be able to tap in, lock in your ticket. And guys, Brian Grimes, your real estate mentor, signing off. Hope you got value out of this. Enjoy the 4th of July. I'll see you guys on the next one.